Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another reading. As we are here every week, giving you messages to just help you move through all the changing energies taking place at this time. And so, some of you might know this as the Ascension Journey. And what exactly is the Ascension Journey? Well, the Ascension Journey is the process of getting closer to our soul. It's getting a better comprehension of who we are at the soul level. And like I say every week, we are soul beings having a human experience. But again, the world in which we live, the society in which we live, the matrix system in which we live, we have been programmed to be so overly focused on the material realm that we often forget that it is actually the non-material realm which is governing everything that we see, including our physical body. Everything comes from a non-physical, a non-tangible dimension, in that everything first starts in the mind. Just like what is activating our body is our breath, yet the breath is not something that is tangible. Yes, we can feel it when we're breathing. For example, when I breathe onto my hand, I can feel my breath, but it's not something that I can touch. So essentially, these videos are here to help you, guide you, better comprehend some of the things that are going on in the world, and more importantly, to bring you a new perspective, because everything is about perspective, everything is about information. Each and every one of us, 8 billion human beings living on this planet, as much as the world is one way, we all see it through the lens of our own specific view. We see the world and experience the world through the lens of our past experiences. And this is why, in a sense, these readings are also teachings, in that they are here to help you get a better understanding, or should I even say overstanding, of who you are, so that you can start to better comprehend which parts of you are no longer serving you and maybe hindering you from moving to wherever it is that wherever it is that you wish to go. So, as human beings, we all have intentions and desires, but we don't always accomplish these dreams and desires. And why is that? It's not for a lack of trying. A lot of the time, it's because there are internal blocks. There are blocks, we call these limiting beliefs, because everything essentially is dictated by our beliefs. So if you do not believe that you can do something, then you probably aren't ever going to be able to do that something, because in a sense, our belief fuels our thoughts, which then fuel our actions. So again, a lot of energies are shifting. It is hard to know exactly where we are going, but it is certain that we can say that humanity and the earth are going through an important phase of evolution. And again, many ancient civilizations spoke about this time. Many prophecies were written about this time. And so things might continue to seem a bit chaotic and a bit overwhelming and a bit hard to understand what really is going on here. And so I really hope that these videos will bring you information that you might not have had before, or also just give you some guidance and help you realize that you're already doing what you need to do. So just keep at it and stay open with your heart. And let's see what the messages for us have to say. So the first card that comes out is Star Ancestor. Follow the voice of your soul. Yes, beautiful souls. Remember that our souls are essentially the subconscious mind, because as human beings, we are made up of a conscious mind and we are made up of a subconscious mind. Now, the subconscious mind basically is like a supercomputer that holds all the information that we have been exposed to, not only in this lifetime, but every single lifetime that we have experienced before this. Not only the lifetimes that we have experienced here on Earth, but lifetimes that we have experienced on other planets and in other bodies. Now, some of you here might find this information a little bit out there, and I guess it does bring you into the concepts of reincarnation. And I just want to remind people here that the soul never dies. Yes, the human body comes here and we all die. It's crazy that we all, every single human being, every animal, every plant, everything dies. Yet for some weird reason, we are so fearful of it. We all fear death so much. Yet it is one of the reasons our souls actually choose to come here, because we really fully live once our body dies, because our soul is really what is animating anything. Remember, the body is literally just the vessel that allows our soul, which is non-tangible, to come and experience this 3D tangible world. So the more that we are able to listen to our soul, the more that we are able to comprehend who we are at the soul level, the more we will start to see the world from a higher perspective. Because remember, your soul has lived millions and millions and millions and millions of years. It is energy that is ancient. And so when we listen to the voice of our souls, we are listening to a voice that is ancient, that we are listening to a voice that is all knowing and all seeing, and that has access to thousands and thousands and thousands of bits of information. And so this is one of the problems that we are experiencing in the world today, is that over the course of humanity, we have slowly been exteriorizing everything. In the ancient times, and it's interesting because if you look on this card, there are the pyramids here. And when I recently traveled to Egypt a few weeks back, well, one of the things that I really took away was that spirituality and honoring of the spirit world was a great part of these ancient civilizations. And we can see that in most of the major ancient civilizations, spirituality was at the forefront. They comprehended that there was so much more going on in the non-physical world than in the physical world. And they tapped into the energies of that world to be able essentially to steer their lives in this physical world in the direction that they wanted. And they were capable of accomplishing great feats and great things. And still today, we don't quite understand how how the pyramids were built. And well, this is because these were built using ancient technologies that are available in the subconscious mind, that are available in the spirit world. But over time, we have been led to believe that we can't possibly have the right answers, and we always have to look outside of ourselves. And especially since the rise of the information of the internet, whilst I really believe that people should be so much more intelligent than they've ever been, it seems that there is a general dumbing down of the population, because most people, well, they're so focused on looking outside of themselves, and a lot of society has been driven to pay more attention to things that are not that important. I mean, it seems that everyone is aware of what the Kardashians are up to, but no one is really aware of what is going on, um, you know, scientifically or geopolitically, or things that are actually way more important to our societies than what the Kardashians are up to. So the sooner that we are able to start realizing that inside of us, that our soul really has absolutely all the information that we need, and that our subconscious mind is really like a supercomputer that has information that stems back thousands of years. I mean, now if you look to the internet, it's not always possible to find information. I mean, there's a lot of information that you can't find online, because this information can only be found in books. But this information can also be found inside of us if we are willing to go looking for it. So, yes, follow the voice of your soul. What is that little voice inside of you pushing you to do? And you might think that, when you start tapping into your logical, thinking brain, you might start thinking, well, these things are ludicrous. Well, the thing is, the soul is far more intelligent, and the soul is connected to the heart. What most people don't realize is that the heart is a thinking machine on its own, but of a higher vibration. So we have only been tuned to think with our logical minds, as opposed to thinking with our feeling heart. So, what exactly is your inner voice telling you? And think about how many times you might have heard an inner voice, and you didn't listen to that voice and went back and said, "Oh shit, I should have listened to myself." So again, the internal voice, one thing that I have learned along my own journey is that listening to your soul, listening to your intuition will never guide you astray. This is a voice that is literally there to protect you. And it is a voice that is coming from a higher version of yourself that literally has experienced things that you currently sitting here in front of this video might never would have deemed were possible. So start paying attention to that voice. Then the next card we have is Medicine Mother. Honor your inner knowing. Beautiful voice. Again, a voice that is saying, trust your internal voice, trust your knowing. We always know things. And this is why most of these card readings, they're just here to kind of reiterate what you already know and what you already feel. But a lot of us already have the answers, but it's like we tend to need external validation just to confirm what we already know. So yes, this card, it really makes me think of ancient traditional, sort of, traditional African healers. And this is what is happening now. It's interesting because at the start of 2020, I received many downloaded messages, which I didn't quite understand at the time. But now, in hindsight, the more time passes by, I really better comprehend what these messages meant. And the message that kept on coming over and over and over was Africa rising. And really, everything happens in cycles. And again, for as far back as we can remember, Africa has certainly not been in a state of power. Africa has continued to be raped and pillaged for her resources. And whilst Africa remains the continent that has the most amount of resources and really has the DNA of life, because every single human being came from Mother Africa. And so there is ancient, ancient wisdom. But the Africans, the ancient Africans, did not need to write things down because the Africans would share down knowledge. Knowledge would be passed down through story form, which is why storytelling has been such an important part of the African culture. And so these stories would be passed down from generation to generation to generation. But unfortunately, now, because of the way civilization has been developing and how more and more over time Africa has been more and more westernized, and this is so visible, for me who is only in my 30s, can't say that I've been on this world for that long of a time. And even I can remember how Kenya was so much different when I was a child to where it is today, and how the ideologies and the ways of thinking have become so much more westernized, where slowly, slowly the African culture, and this is not just in Kenya, this is across the continent, where the African culture is slowly diminishing in her strength. And the thing is, the more we forget our history, the more we forget who we are, because we are then bound to make the same mistakes in the future because we forget what happened in our past. And so it is so important that we do not negate the past, because our past is just as important as our future, because it defines, it defines where we're going based on the decisions and things that happened in our past. And this is also ancestral, because at this time, and why are there so many souls alive on this earth today, is because many souls wanted to come in, because this was a time where so much karma would be able to be cleared. And so essentially what is happening, because time is speeding up, and I'm certain you can feel this, and even if you look at the Schumann resonance, and even if you look at teachings that were being shared 10, 15 years ago, people were already talking about the time that the fact that time was speeding up. And this is why so many things are happening so much faster today, because there is as much as we think that there are 24 hours in a day, it's actually a lot less. But why do I talk about these things? Well, I talk about these things is because we have also come here to heal our ancestral traumas. And one thing that is for sure is that there is a lot of trauma that runs through the African DNA because of slavery. And unfortunately, it's just something that I have to say here, is that if you are not a person that has melanin in your blood, you cannot fully comprehend the ancestral trauma that exists within the melanated people. Because unfortunately, society has been built and has essentially put the melanated people at the bottom of the food chain. And essentially, the more melanin you have actively means the more spiritual you are, because melanin is directly connected to the DNA. And so now more than ever is when the African people need to start working on releasing their trauma, because trauma spills over into lifetimes. And this can be seen so easily with the beating of children. And here in Africa, it is so accepted for children to be beaten. But when you think about children, children are innocent. Children are pure, pure energy. Children are essentially energy that have come from the highest possible dimensions, and they are here to teach us about nurturing, and they are here to teach us about love, and they are here to teach us about softness and kindness, and they are here to help us remember how to connect with our heart. But because we were not treated with kindness, and we were not treated with gentleness, and we were beaten, and we were maltreated, and we were not treated with care and love, what happens is this then spills over from one generation to the next. And children need love. Children need softness. Children need kindness, because essentially childhood is the foundation of our entire adult experience. And if the foundation of our life is one of trauma, then you can imagine how we are more likely to pass this trauma on to not only our children, but even to other people. And it's not that we want to do this, it's that we do what we were taught. So, the medicine mother is really the mother coming back and telling us that it is important for us to love and nurture ourselves and learn to be kind to ourselves and take the time to nurture and heal our traumas. And not only the traumas of this lifetime, because it is really the traumas of our past lifetimes. And in essence, the only reason that we stand here free today, no longer shackled by the chains that shackled us. And well, yes, there still exists a form of slavery today, which in a sense is so much worse than the slavery back then, because it is a slavery of the mind, a slavery where we cannot become free from the programming that has been instilled into us for generations and generations. And if you want to learn more about this, then I invite you to check out my podcast, where I dive more into these matters that hopefully will help you open up to new perspectives. But it is important that you learn to be your own medicine mother. And it is important that you learn how to nurture and love yourself and honor the pain and the trauma that you have experienced, because it is only in honoring and knowing and accepting that these things were done, and not necessarily holding on to these and now making them your story and saying, I am a victim of circumstance, but just honoring that you experience pain and deciding that you will no longer commit pain to yourself, but also to others around you. So the next card we have is Shaolin Master. Be graceful in your movement and action. Yes, beautiful souls, I love this card. And when you look at the Shaolin monks, and it's very interesting, because something that most people don't know is, once again, so many things were westernized or were taken away from the mother continent and made their own. And so martial arts originally originated in Africa, and this might, not make some people happy, but remember, everything started in Africa and was slowly taken away and migrated to all four corners of the earth. And so if you think about it, everything essentially is African. But over time, things shifted and new cultures emerged, but everything came from the motherland. Life started here in the motherland. So with the Shaolin masters, yes, as much as they are powerful machines, and they're not large, they tend to be small and robust, and quite petite in their frames, because what they learn to master is their energy. And essentially what they're teaching, and this is why meditation and inner reflection and discipline of mind and body is a huge part of the Shaolin training, because it is about learning how to master your energy. And the energy is mastered through the body, through the mind, and through the emotions. So once you learn to gain mastery over all these three aspects of yourself, you learn to start mastering your life. So when you are able to master all these aspects of yourself, then you can move through life with ease and grace, because you know that you have the power inside of you to surmount any obstacle that comes your way. And so the Shaolin monks, they are so in tune with the spirit world. They are so in tune with their internal world just as much as their external world, that they are able to move through the world with ease and grace. And this is a mantra that I used in my own life for a long time, that, everything comes to me with ease and grace. Everything comes to me with ease and grace. And really the power of mantras is that when you speak these mantras out loud, essentially, I use them to help me identify if there are limiting beliefs. And what a limiting, how you'll know if you have a limiting belief, well, if you say this thing out loud and you're just like, no, that's not true, or you feel some kind of, tingling sensation in your body or a tightness in your chest, then it means some part of you doesn't believe that. So this is where the concepts of shadow work comes in. Now you can start to unpack and ask yourself, okay, why don't I believe that things come to me with ease and grace? And now the more you start to question, the more you start to unpack. And the more you start to identify parts of you, excuse me, you start to identify parts of you that you didn't know were there, lurking deep beneath the shadows. And the shadow aspects, we all have them. The shadow aspects are the part of ourselves that we don't want to look at, because essentially these are the parts that are created as a form of a coping mechanism, as a healing coping mechanism, because we didn't know how to deal with our things. But these coping mechanisms are not bad. If you get angry when someone says something, that is not bad. It is literally just your body and your mind and your subconscious communicating something to you so that you can start to pay attention to something that you didn't know was there and work on it so that you can essentially move away from these things that are no longer serving you. So then the next card we have is Hermit, retreat and recharge. Yes, many of us have been in hermit mode, and many of us are being asked to remain in hermit mode because I keep receiving the message that things are really going to start moving in 2024. Because again, everything is energy, numbers are energy, and each individual number holds an archetype, holds a certain energy. So in 2023, in numerology, you add all of the numbers up until you get a single digit. So in 2023, we are essentially in the year of 7. And 7 is the year of spirituality. It's the year of truth, which is why many people this year might have felt more called than ever to start going inwards and to start dealing with their pains and dealing with their challenges. And many people I keep hearing are starting to embrace therapy. Yes, beautiful souls, really every single human being on this planet should have a therapist in one form or another. And ideally, we are to become our own therapists, where we need to take the time to go inwards so that we can reflect upon our lives. We can reflect on our deepest inner thoughts, on our inner beliefs, on which direction we want to be going in with our life. So pay attention, take time to go inwards, take time to retreat and recharge, because when we are constantly stuck in the busy, busy, go, go, go world, especially for people who live in the city, it is almost impossible to rest and recharge when you are in the city. You literally need to take yourself physically out of that energy and to move into a different space, because again, the energy of the city, it's almost like you feel guilt when you're doing nothing, because that is the way the matrix system has hardwired us to always be giving, giving, giving. But unless we take time out to go and recharge, then we're constantly operating on depleting batteries. It's like, how can you use your phone well if your phone is always on sort of like 2% battery? You're always going to be worrying that your phone is about to die. So the best way to retreat and recharge is to spend time in nature. Nature truly is the most potent medicine that there is, because nature is natural and it reminds us of the natural world and reminds us of what life used to be before we became so engulfed in this matrix system that is no longer natural. It goes against the natural way of life. So yes, I just want to sort of transition. As we retreat and recharge, you are developing new building blocks. And the thing is, yes, the first thing that comes to mind here when I talk about building blocks is the foundation. The foundation of any building needs to be done sturdily, otherwise that building will collapse. So if you want to look at the foundation for our life, it is our beliefs. The building blocks, essentially, everything, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say here is that the first 7 years of our life will essentially be the building blocks for our life. Because the first 7 years of our lives, our brain are in a state of theta. And theta, I think I've said this in previous videos, is when we are in deep meditation. And essentially, your brain is like a sponge, and you are able to absorb so much information. But again, remember, your subconscious mind is not as full in this lifetime when you are a child. It's almost like you're operating from a different mind. You're learning how to exist in this world. And this is why we have to learn how to use our bodies, and we have to learn how to speak, and we have to learn basic things such as learning how to go to the bathroom. But so those are essentially the building blocks, and everything that we are taught in those first 7 years is what will identify the way we start to move in the world. But we're taught that, once something is there, it's impossible to change in adulthood. But actually, something that we're not taught about is something called neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity is the ability to create new neural pathways in our brain. And this can happen at any stage in life. So it is never too late to start something new. It is never too late to start changing who you are. If there is a version of you that you are wanting to become, because remember, when we are manifesting, you are not manifesting that thing, you are manifesting the version of you that you need to become in order for that thing to come into your life. So it is possible to change who you are at any time in your life, because it is possible to create new neural pathways at any point in life. And this is why the Hermit Retreat and Recharge card is so important, because when we take time to go inwards, when we take time to really question what it is that we desire, and where there is somehow a disconnect between where we are now and where it is that we desire to be. So we can now start creating new building blocks. And in a sense, this is what has been happening even in the collective since 2020, because I really look at, the whole world stopped. This has never happened in the past of the world. Even when there were world wars going on, the world never stopped the way it did. It was almost like the pause button was hit. And because the pause button was hit, it's like when it was put back into play, those of us that went into this sort of retreat and recharge and use that time of pause to kind of reflect and to look at the world differently, because we weren't stuck in that rat race loop where we're constantly going. When you take a pause, you're able to kind of get a new perspective and see things a little bit differently than you did before. So those of us that took a pause and were able to actually pause and take time to look at the world and observe the changes that were occurring, I'm sure that your life is a lot different than it was 2-3 years ago. I'm sure that you have taken certain actions that have moved you in a direction that you probably wouldn't have expected yourself to move into. And so the more that we continue with these building blocks, and this is why these past 4 years, 2020 up until 2024, are so important, because they have literally been the building blocks that are being put in place for the next cycle. Because again, 2020 was a time, energetically, again, I'm looking at, astrologers for many, many years were talking about the astrological alignments that would take place during 2020. And I, who was following the astrology pretty closely, it was insanity what was going on. And we could literally see in the physical how these energies were being manifested. It was crazy. But essentially, 2020 to 2024 were the years where we were putting in place new foundations for the new cycles that we were wanting to build. Now, obviously, this is not the case for everyone, because some people, didn't change. Nothing changed for them. As soon as the world kind of went back to normal, people just kind of went back. And it was almost like none of it happened. But for those of us who took the time out to start paying attention to what it was that we wanted to be moving towards, then I am telling you that these building blocks will start to become more apparent, or should I say, the outcome of these building blocks. It's sort of like your house will be more visible and almost livable in 2024, because you have taken the time to build in the foundation for the new house that you were creating. And interestingly enough, the numerology on this card is a 10, which comes to a 1, which is all about new beginnings. So the building blocks for the new beginnings of your life. Then we come to a 9, which is all about completion. And the card is Treasure Island. And so it's almost like, we have all been swimming around at sea, not really knowing, having a general idea of that we want to get to land, we want to find our treasure island, but not fully comprehending in which direction the land is. So we've kind of been swimming around, telling the universe, yes, this is the direction that we want to go in. And so we have been completing cycles. We have been closing out the cycles so that we can fully, by 2024, move into and fully anchor the new cycle, which is one in which you will be blessed with a lot of treasure. And again, remembering that treasure when we talk about the concepts of abundance, this is not only financially, we have to stop looking at abundance in only monetary standards, because the world gives us in so many different ways, and the more that we are able to receive and see all the blessings that come in all the different ways that they do, this can be in the form of people, this can be in the form of help, this can be in the form of advice, this can be in the form of opportunities, this can be in so many different ways. So start paying attention to what kind of treasure has been coming into your life and emerging since 2020. So then we move in to the next card, which is Not For You. Yes, you might be noticing more and more as time has been evolving that this is not, this world is not the way you want to go about doing things. And this has been the beauty of the pause that we were gifted with. It's almost like the universe gave us a pause, and that we were gifted a pause by the universe. And this was almost like a test to see who would move forward and do things differently, or who would continue to stay in the mundane. Because again, I will continue to repeat, the world in which we live, this matrix system in which we live, is not building us up. It is not giving us the opportunity to be our best self, because the system is literally dumbing us down mentally, physically, emotionally, between all the processed foods, all the chemicals in the air. There are so many alternative ways. And it's interesting because when I look at these cards, we have the numbers 369, which are the magical numbers, the infinite numbers of the universe, the numbers which Nikola Tesla used all those years ago to create and generate and to harness basically free electricity from the ethers. So there are way advanced ways that are available to us, but unfortunately, the matrix system has continued to limit the resources and technologies that we have access to. But if you have spent these past 4 years nurturing yourself and paying attention to what it is that you truly desire, and paying attention to all the things that are not for you, and taking the time to change these things and to bring in things that are more for you, then again, you will slowly start to see the benefits of this. Love this card, Between Worlds. And the number we have here is 3. And yes, beautiful souls, the 3 is all about creativity and communication. And so you are literally finding yourself between worlds, because what is happening is these past 4 years have been extremely important to anchor in the energies of the new earth. And these energies haven't yet been fully anchored, which is why there is so much chaos energy going on at this time. This is why there are so many things being thrown at us, because the powers that be, who know that this cycle is completing and that they are slowly being phased out, well, of course, they do not want to become obsolete and are fighting as hard as they can to keep the energies low. Because essentially, what has been happening is that the frequencies of the earth have been rising. And as these frequencies rise, then new higher frequency information is going to be coming in. And this is what we have been seeing over the years. But more, because the more the frequencies get higher and higher and higher, the more divine, I want to say, this information will be. So it's almost like we are straddling between the physical world and the spirit world. And if you look at this card, the physical world is the gloomy, not so, nicely colored part. Whereas the spirit world is where all the colors become vibrant. Everything starts to become more vibrant because we're able to tune into energies that are not available on this physical reality. And this is why the powers that be have wanted these energies to remain so low for such a long time, not only because they don't want us to ascend and rise up and know who we are, but because these are the powers that be and that govern this world are not beings of light, shall I say. They are beings of less light. And because they do not wish to step into the light, they are maintaining less light on this planet. But the more that we allow light to enter our own individual hearts, the more we are bringing light to this planet. And so, this is where it is so important for the collective to come together and start realizing that the more we heal individually, the more we start to pay attention to improving our own personal journey. And this is again, the society in which we live says that we have to put the collective above the individual. And yes, to a certain extent, but not at the detriment of our individual selves to serve the collective. When we are individually the best versions of ourselves, then we help the collective way more than we realize. Because when we move into this space of light, when we move into the dimensions of light, then we realize that it is all energetic. And when we are able to adjust our energies to being in those higher frequency energies, then we are able to shift this physical 3D reality to elevate upwards as well. So the next card we have is 11th house, community. Yes, now is all a time about building community. Now is a time of helping one another because, we go so much further when we go with others, because nothing was built alone. Every great monument, every great thing that you see that has ever existed in our history, was created through collaboration. And so it is important. We are being called now to create our communities because community is so important. The people who we surround ourselves with will directly affect our own energies. So, what is the community that you are surrounding yourself with? If you continue to surround yourself with a community that is low vibrational and isn't allowing you to move into the highest versions of yourself, then essentially it is going to become harder and harder for you to continue ascending. So, what kind of community are you surrounding yourself with? What kind of community do you belong to or do you wish to belong to? Because if you have always been surrounded with people who want nothing but your downfall secretly, then this is, not everybody has the best of intentions. And you who might be big hearted and have the best of intentions, you might have found that you have been giving, 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 and find yourself depleted and almost to a state of resentment. And that's not where we want to be, right? We want to make sure that we are always in balance. So make sure that you are surrounding yourself with a community of people who actively want you to elevate as well. And this is why when you surround yourself with a community and everyone in the community has the same intention, then you are able to manifest all that much faster. The next card we have is again communication with the third house. And I kind of see these cards here being together, the third house, the three on this number, and then the third house. So third house is, yes, again about communication and creativity. Now remember, communication, works in so many different ways. There is communication through the voice, but there is, anything is communication. And so I think recently we were in Mercury retrograde, which is essentially when they say that everything goes wrong. I don't necessarily believe this. I think that when Mercury is in a period of retrograde, the reason why there is perhaps distortions in communication is because we are being given the time to reassess, reevaluate, all the reevaluate, reassess, re-identify, whatever, but essentially it's a time for us to go inwards and assess if what it is that we are communicating about is of importance. Because, you know, when we communicate, and everything we do, the actions we take are also communicating something. It communicates our belief system, it communicates who we are. So, what is it that you are doing? What is it that you are thinking? What is it that you are believing? Where is it that you are taking action? Because all of these things are communicating something about you. So, is the version, and it's interesting, I kind of want to jump already to this card because we have the Ascendant card. And the ascendant card is essentially the rising sign in astrology. So when we look at our astrology, we look at the sun sign, the moon sign, and the rising sign. Well, essentially, we look at every single planet, but these are the three main energies we look at. And so the rising sign represents, so while the sun sign represents who we perceive ourselves to be, the rising sign represents how other people see us. And other people will not see us the way we see ourselves because other people do not have the same context that we have. So when we walk into a room, how are we perceived? That is essentially what the rising sign and the ascendant is all about. So the actions, the thoughts, the things that we say, the things that we are communicating in all those different verbal or non-verbal ways are communicating who we are and communicating why other people see us the way they do. So if somebody says, oh, you are XYZ, now the reason that somebody could be seeing you as being XYZ is maybe, for one, they could be deflecting onto you because they haven't been doing their shadow work, or they are telling you something based on the way that you are communicating. So rather than brushing that off and saying, no, 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 that's not true, or fully taking it on and saying, okay, now I'm like this because this person has said this, is just take a moment to assess. Take a moment to hear out what that person is saying because there is information. Remember, other human beings are like mirrors to us. We can't really know ourselves until we interact with people around us, and all the interactions and communication that we're having with people around us are helping us to better know ourselves, because either we do certain things or we don't do certain things, or we say certain things or we don't say certain things. So now start paying attention to that. Start paying attention to what is the perspective that you have of the world. What is the perspective that you have of yourself, and how is that perspective affecting the way you communicate in the world? And then the card we have here is the second house of resources. Yes, because the way in which you are communicating, the thoughts that you have, the actions that you take are affecting your house of resources. Now, here we see the coins, but remember what I said earlier is that abundance is not only material, it's not only financial. You know, resources, anything can be a resource. This phone that I'm recording this video on is a resource. These cards that I have to do this reading are a resource. Every single thing that we have around us is a resource. This couch behind me is a resource. So anything that we have can be a resource because it can be used to help us do something. So start paying attention to what resources you already have and how you can use them to get you closer to where it is that you desire. Or start paying attention to what resources you might need in order to become the version of you that you need to be to acquire those things that you desire. So then lastly, I picked a few angel cards here to give us some final messages as we close out this message. So the first card that we had was savings. Are you consistently, as you consistently save for your future is saved. You do your future self a big favor as you consistently set aside present funds. This is a part of your self care and a path to feeling secure as you focus upon your life purpose. Interesting that this is the card that comes up directly after we talk about resources, because why is it that so many people find themselves worried or scared or overwhelmed? Is because they are fearful that they will not have the resources that are needed in order to live. So, because we live in a world that is so about instant gratification, it's like many of us, as soon as we receive our salaries, we want to go and spend all of our money. So that when shit hits the fan, we don't have the resources and we have to look to friends or family, or we have to ask to borrow money or this and that. And the thing is, that puts a strain on our relationships with the people around us. So it is so important that we learn to become self-sustainable. So learning to put, money aside for a rainy day, especially now as we live in the world where, across the globe, um, everyone is dealing with inflation, and prices is going to continue going up. So the more that we start also being more aware of how we are using our resources and what we are spending our money on, and starting to pay attention to make sure that we're only spending money on the things that are getting us closer to being the version of us that we need to be to bring in those things that we desire. Because if we are constantly spending on things that are not important, then again, when shit hits the fan, it becomes very difficult to pick ourselves up, and we start putting a lot of weight on our on our community, because we're constantly needing to borrow resources. And the thing is, well, when it comes to money, money is always a bit of a touchy subject, and it's always a bit complicated when it comes to money with friends and family. So in order to avoid putting your burdens onto your friends and family, and the thing is, people don't have to say yes even if they love you so much. And the thing is, this then causes issues within those community members. And the thing is, if you had just taken the time to prepare yourself better, then these situations could have been avoided. Then the next card we have is let go of guilt. When you allow your light to shine brightly, you inspire others. Forgive yourself for what you think you've done or not done, and trust that God loves you unconditionally for who you are. Learn and grow from past mistakes instead of berating yourself from them. Yes, beautiful souls. Forgiveness is a big part of God's love, is a big part of the universe. And really, one of the biggest things that we all need to learn is how to forgive ourselves, how to forgive others. And when I say forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. Forgiving simply means letting go of no longer holding onto the energy of that thing. It simply says, okay, yes, I accept and admit that this thing happened, but rather than me walking around and holding on to this thing so deeply that it becomes my identity, I can let it go and say, okay, I forgive myself, or I forgive this person, or I forgive whatever happened, because this is the first way of starting to let go of energetic baggage. Then we have face your financial fears. Interesting how we have a lot coming up about money. We have a lot coming up about resources here, because many of us are looking for financial freedom. And the first way to go about financial freedom is stop buying things that you do not need. It requires a change in mindset, and when you move into a more minimalistic lifestyle, you realize that you don't need to be buying so much stuff, that really you have everything that you need already, but we keep buying stuff because, again, this is what the matrix system tricks us into. We constantly think that we need this thing, we need that thing, but this is not the case. When you are honest with yourself about fears of success or failure, they can no longer control you. Be free of hidden fears by exposing them to the light of awareness, and you'll realize that in fact you have nothing to fear, and that every successful person has struggled with and released these self-doubts. Yes, beautiful souls, every single person who has gained financial success and who is successful in life today, the only reason that they got there is because they looked at failure differently, and they didn't look at failure as being failure. They looked at it as being one way not to do things. And reaching success, most people, when they see someone who is successful, they only see the outcome. They haven't seen, sort of like they only see the tip of the iceberg. They don't see all the iceberg that is submerged under the water. And the only reason that people succeed is because they are willing to go and go and go. And no matter how many obstacles and challenges that they are hit with, they continue and they continue and they continue. And no matter how much stuff people says to them, they're able to pick themselves up off the floor and just keep on going. So yes, do not be afraid to fail, because really, beautiful souls, this is a huge shift in the way we use our minds, and realizing that when we go after the things that we desire, the universe is actively supporting us to reach that. But the only reason that we fail is because we become fearful. We become fearful that people will laugh at us, or people won't, comprehend what we're doing, or people will think we're crazy, or whatever it may be. But every single time, if you just continue, if you want that success so badly, you have to have the ability to keep going no matter what comes. And so, yes, the self doubt obviously is a big one. And last but not least, we have cooperation instead of competition. Again, this brings me to the community card, which is all about collaboration. This is very much so what the Age of Aquarius energy is about, where we are being asked to cooperate with our collectives, cooperate with our higher selves, but also cooperate with the divine. We are being asked to co-create the foundations of what the new earth will look like. And the more that we set those foundations within ourselves, the more we are anchoring in those foundations energetically for the rest of the world. So what's yours is yours, and no one can take it from you. There's no need to compete, as there's an abundance for all. You have complete access to unlimited abundance for yourself and to share with others. With cooperative partnerships, you can accomplish anything. Yes, beautiful souls, this just brings me back to the fact that nature literally provides us with everything that we need. But we have been again programmed to constantly look to the material world to get what we need. But we realize that we have everything inside of us. All the steps that are needed for you to accomplish success already exist inside of you. You just have to trust yourself. You just have to trust that the information that is coming to you and that is being shared to you by the divine is information that is bringing you towards financial freedom. So start paying attention with the people who are actively already, the people who you can work with and who can bring you closer to success are already around you. The thing is, you probably haven't noticed them because you have been asking the wrong questions. So pay attention, beautiful souls, to everything that is being made available to you now, and that you truly are moving toward financial freedom. But you are the one who has to keep going. And as long as you continue to work with the divine, you will be rewarded. So sending you much love and light. If you resonated with this video, please like it and share it with anyone who might need this message of guidance. And if you're interested in a personal reading to get a better understanding of what is going on in your own personal life, then I have included a link in the description box below for that as well. So much love to you all, and I will see you in next week's video.